Morning. December 2nd, Wednesday morning. I want to welcome you to this morning's live stream. Not nearly as cold this morning. It's only in the mid-40s. I keep thinking of you, Stacy, and Terry up there in Wyoming. Mid-40s sounds pretty warm to you, I'd imagine. Jan Akins, good morning to you. There you are, Stacy. Good morning. Janisa, welcome. Karen, Faust, good morning. Welcome, everybody. We're continuing our study in Isaiah chapter 8 as it kind of spills into chapter 9. Sally Crocker, good morning. There's my mom. Good morning to you. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, so in the same context of what we've been studying, Israel's going through a rough spot due to their own sin, their own lack of turning back to God, and God's allowing them to experience the natural consequences of their behaviors. And He sent them a warning. Trust in God. He alone is in charge of your future. And they are refusing to do it. And so they start to receive in their lives a sense of the natural consequence for those actions. And so Isaiah chapter 8, as you know, we talked about yesterday, even Isaiah was tempted to doubt and maybe fear, and God's saying, no, don't doubt, don't fear what they fear. And in the end, Isaiah says, I'm going to wait on the Lord. My future is secure, not because I can see it, and I know what's going to happen in the future. My future is secure because I trust in the Lord. I'm willing to wait on Him. This is something that the northern kingdom of Israel was unwilling to do. The southern kingdom, Ahaz the king, was unwilling to do, to trust in the Lord for their future. They wanted to make their future more controllable in their own hands, and ultimately that was going to be their downfall. So I'm just going to continue to read. This is the context of God is currently hiding His face from Israel. In other words, his blessing has been removed from their lives, and they're feeling, pretty exposed, and things aren't going right, and kind of a darkness has descended upon the land. And God is speaking through Isaiah, kind of using the northern kingdom and the extreme darkness that they're experiencing as an example to the southern kingdom. Look what's happening up there, and we are. We could fall into the same path as they do if we're not careful. So, after Isaiah makes his statement, I'm going to wait on the Lord, I'm going to trust in Him, even though He's hiding His face, God speaks through him to talk about the northern kingdom and their kind of descent into darkness. And this is in verse 19. It says, "And when they say to you, inquire of the mediums and the necromancers who chirp and mutter." So their solution, in other words, is to go to mediums to inquire of the dead. We don't know what our future is. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to make alliances. We're trying to make things better. We've fallen into darkness. God's hiding His face from us. And so we go to the dead to try to predict the future, what's going to happen, so we can make good choices today to ensure that good future is before us. So they go to mediums to inquire of the dead to do this. And Isaiah is saying, this is foolish. Why would you go to the dead on behalf of the living? We serve the living God. He alone knows our future. He's the one we should be going to. Why are we going to mediums, So he says, inquire of the mediums and the necromancers who chirp and mutter. Should not a people inquire of their God? Should they inquire of the dead on behalf of the living? And he says to the let's see, to the teaching and to the testimony is what he says. So get back to the word. Get back to what the prophets are saying. Get back to what God has already spoken to us. As long as we align our lives to these things, then light will return to us. We'll feel secure again. The face of God will shine upon us. But that's not what people are doing. They're turning to mediums and trying to inquire of the dead, as if that's going to help them. And he says, the conclusion of chapter 8 is, they will look to the earth, but behold distress and darkness, gloom of anguish, and they will be thrust into thick darkness. I'm going to stop there just for a minute before I read on to chapter 9. That is just the truth so many times when we are in a difficult spot. We're experiencing hardships and pain and grief and setbacks and walls and challenges and whatever it is. It's hard for us sometimes to focus and turn ourselves to the Lord. And instead, we want to turn to something that is more earthly, that inherently doesn't bring life to us. I'll use some what may sound like extreme examples. Instead of turning to God and trusting in Him, we turn to things that make us feel good now: eating, shopping, alcohol, drugs, sex. Not in these things in unhealthy ways. You know what I'm saying? We turn to things that help us to feel better now, versus turning to trust the Lord and let light shine on our hearts. Some of us have had this background of, maybe we came to faith early on in our life, but in our teenage, young adult years, we strayed from the path. And we knew about the truth of God, we knew the Word of God, but we chose not to follow it. And we went down this path that ultimately led to darkness. Maybe we started partying in college and or just hanging out with the wrong group of friends, or at least a group of friends that weren't godly, and we just, for a period of time, were in darkness. And sometimes when we're in that spot, we have to get to a really low spot. And God allows this course to take place. Now, all the while, He's giving us the Word. He's giving us opportunities to turn, but for whatever reason, we're continuing on that path because it just feels right for today. It feels good. But it doesn't lead to life. It's not leading to the truth, the reality of the living God, though we know God is back there somewhere in the back of our mind. We know we should be following Him, but we're just, for whatever reason today, not choosing that path. We're choosing a path of immediate gratification and things that make me feel better now. And I certainly can identify with that, though I didn't have a time in my life where I really strayed from God. I'm tempted not every single day. There are times, I've mentioned this before, that I struggle with anxiety. And when anxiety mounts in me, there's maybe an increased workload. There's things that are uncertain about the future. There are there's a heavy decision to be made. There's a deadline looming. There are people who are coming to you with complaints and whatever it is that is creating this stressful situation. I feel this start to build in me. And, the physiological things are, my brain is dumping cortisol and adrenaline into my system, and that triggers a fight or flight response. And it's a natural thing that it's supposed to prime us to be really aware and to do well. But when that cortisol and so on, which feels like to me in the pit of my gut, like just my insides are like in a slow burn. They're just this smoldering, unhealthy feeling I could just feel it burning in my system, this anxiety, and it's mounting, and it's triggering in me one of two responses: fight or flight. And so the flight mechanism wants me to just numb out, wants me to distract myself, wants me to do anything than to face what it is I need to face, to kind of press in and work through this issue. And in my younger years, my less disciplined years, this is where at the root of it, and I still am guilty of it today to various degrees, is procrastination. You put off what you know you need to do because I want to just distract myself with this activity or that activity. And it's in this place we can do unhealthy things as well. This is like Isaiah saying, why are they turning to the dead on behalf of the living? It doesn't make sense to Isaiah. Lots of times we do these things that we know are unhealthy, we know don't make sense, and to just feel good now, to get rid of that, whatever's going on inside us, the tumult and anxiety and the angst, and it's like, oh, I just want to get rid of this, and it triggers that flight where we just want to escape, right? Or it can move us to fight, where we move in. And this is where God wants us to trust in him. This is kind of the crux where we can turn right or to the left, pressing in to trust God and to say, okay, and this is what I'm learning to do in my own life and managing my own anxiety and so on, is to hold on to that feeling and say, it's okay that you're feeling this. I prefer not to feel it, but it's okay. God, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to move into your presence. I'm going to take deep breaths. I do that a lot. This is just 2 days ago I was dealing with this, so this is not like ancient history. Taking deep breaths and pressing in to God, and it's not like it all goes away. It's still there, but I'm trying to stay present and not escape through unhealthy means. And so maybe not unhealthy, not in the sense of evil or immoral, but in the sense of non-productive. Just binge watch something, YouTube or movie, whatever we do to distract ourselves, right? Instead of pressing in and trusting to God. We are turning to things that don't bring life as if that's going to be a solution. We know it's not. And you may have if you have children who are out of the household, maybe you have a child or even a grandchild who is wayward, who has chosen that path of distraction, chosen that path of not facing the truth that they knew as a child. And they've gone down this dark path. All of us have experienced this either in our own personal history, our current history of dealing with issues and turning to unhealthy things to numb out or escape, rather than press in to trust in the Lord like Isaiah is doing. He is pressing in. He's saying, I'm going to wait on God even though his face is turned away. And that's the path we need to take. And so that's what I want to say initially is press in, right? We have to learn to press in and trust the Lord. But even when we don't, even when we find ourselves pursuing unhealthy paths, even when we wander away from the Lord, and maybe you're here and you have wandered away from God. Maybe you're in the wilderness. Maybe you're feeling the darkness and you're like, I know I need to turn back to God. And I'm just putting it off. I know I should, but I'm not. I mean, I've had so many conversations like this in my years of ministry with people. And you're in that. Just be aware that you have not ceased to be God's child. Though you might be experiencing the consequences of a life and life choices that choose a path away from God, you have not ceased to be God's child. God is watching over you. He loves you. His blood that he has shed on the cross still has been shed on your behalf, and he is calling you home. Even if you haven't wandered for a long ways away and you're just thinking, today, I'm struggling today, you are God's child. He is calling you home. He wants you to be drawn near to him. He's allowing darkness to kind of define your experience as long as you're choosing a path that leads away from him, so that you will turn back to him. But God has not abandoned you. He loves you. He is beckoning you to return to him. That is his heart toward you. Anytime we wander from putting our faith, hope, trust in God, into his word, and living in the light and drawing near to the light, which is what he wants us to do, anytime we wander from that, we don't cease to be God's children. And let me give you an illustration of this from Isaiah 9. So that's how Isaiah 8 ends. The people they're wandering, they're in darkness and gloom. Chapter 9 says this, opens, verse 1. But, I love that word in this context. But there will be no gloom for her who was in anguish. In the former time, he brought contempt into the land of Zebulun, into the land of Naphtali. These are the tribes of Israel that were in the northern kingdom, okay, that experienced this darkness and gloom. In former times, he brought contempt to that land, but in the latter time, he has made glorious the way of the sea. And this was a highway that went right through the Galilee area in the northern part of the kingdom. The land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. And here's the verses that will sound familiar to you because they're quoted by Matthew and applied to Jesus when he began his ministry right after his baptism and his wanderings and his time of fasting and testing in the wilderness. He begins his ministry right here in the land of Naphtali, in the land of Zebulun, where darkness had been glooming, right? In the area of Galilee, this is where Jesus begins his ministry, and this is what Isaiah says in verse 2. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them has light shined. God has not abandoned us, even though his blessing seems to have been removed due to our kind of wandering away and choosing unhealthy paths. Though it feels like his face is no longer turned toward us, he's hiding himself from us because we have wandered away. We feel the distance and so on because we can't have fellowship with God if we walk in darkness. John tells us in 1 John, we can't say we have fellowship with God yet walk in darkness. It says we're liars. We don't practice the truth if that's what our life looks like. And so God allows us to be in darkness if we walk on that path. But we don't cease to be his children. He longs to draw us back. And to illustrate this very region that was judged for hundreds of years is exactly where Jesus begins his ministry. And a light has shone in this dark place. And he chooses to make the most of his ministry, all the miracles that he's done and so on, all in this region of Galilee, the very place that Isaiah has said that darkness and gloom has settled because of their waywardness. And so I just want to encourage you with that. If you have wandered, God loves you. He wants to draw you back. If you have a child or a grandchild who has wandered away, and maybe they've wandered away for years, and yet they, as children, had placed their faith in God. Don't stop praying for them. God will bring them back. They are still his children. He longs to bring them back. And sometimes we have to choose seeking unhealthy, dead things for a time and hit kind of lows, which are so painful for us to watch or experience if we're the ones wandering. But God allows those things to ultimately draw us back to him. A great light has shone in these very lands that God had turned his face away from years previous. So be encouraged by this. Draw near to God. Don't be tempted in those times of anxiety and stress and whatever for flight to turn away and turn to things that are just not life-giving. Turn to God. Trust him today for all of these things. And so we keep learning about the wonder of who God is and his love for us. So we will do so again tomorrow. We're going to end our this week tomorrow in Isaiah 9 once again, and we'll see you then.